Good afternoon, everyone. Thank you for joining the webinar, Building Connected IoT Mobile Apps Using Xamarin and Azure App Services. Today, our speaker will be Richard Eaton, who is working as the practice manager for Microsoft at Miracle Software. Taking you further to the next slide, our agenda will cover the Miracle story, webinar overview, Azure IoT platform, Enterprise Mobility Suite. Then we'll have a live demo with continuous delivery for mobile app, and at last we'll have Q&A session where everyone can ask their question. Coming to the next slide, the Miracle story. Miracle is something where we can have an innovation in a sense, the new creativity, which can be affordable by anyone with the customer satisfaction over the quality and efficiency work. Apart from that, Miracle was founded in 1994 and is headquartered at Novi, Michigan. We have 20 years of experiences with expertise and 2,000 of employees working globally, which have about 500 certified professions in 12 different locations. We also do have 25 technology accelerators with 15 technology partnerships as well. We'll discuss more about partnership in the coming slides. Going further, Miracle core industry expertise. As discussed earlier, we do have large pool of certification resources in IBM, SAP, Microsoft, Oracle, and many more. We also do global delivery applications in different locations for testing as well, to offshore, offsite, to nearshore. We also do have reusable framework for numerous accelerators aimed at bringing agile adaptation to technology. Miracle do also provide 24/7 support to our customer as well. Going further to the next slide, that is industry verticals. Miracle also work with manufacturing and automotive, energy and utilities, logistics and supply chain, healthcare and pharmacy, retail industry, banking and insurance. Don't worry if an industry is not there. We also work irrespective of this industry with cross-domain as well. Moving further to the next slide, coming to the strategy partnership. For this webinar, especially, we have Microsoft as our gold partner. We also have big partners like IBM, Oracle, AppG, Amazon, Xway, SAP, and many more. Going further, now Richard is going to take over from this slide for the webinar. Richard, it's all yours.
Okay, great. Thank you very much, and it's good to be with you this afternoon talking about the Azure IoT platform, Xamarin apps, and mobile development using Azure and Microsoft mobile platforms and technologies. Going to the next slide, we'll begin our talk about the mobility services that Microsoft is providing for us to do this. We'll take a little overview here. What about connecting IoT mobile apps using Xamarin and Azure Services? What is IoT? Well, IoT stands for the Internet of Things. In today's world, we're connected to each other by the Internet, and we're also connected to many different things by devices that have the ability to send and receive data to the cloud and to other devices, and ultimately to our personal devices so that we can consume the data from those devices in various different ways. Internet of Things, or IoT, is being used in leading industries now, such as manufacturing, healthcare, and insurance companies. Other industries are also finding value in the implementation of IoT, such as utilities, transportation, and agriculture. With an estimated over 26 billion connected devices now, and over 7.3 billion tablets and PCs, the environment is set for a wide field of application development opportunities and analytics from all these IoT devices and for all of these consumers. Where do we start the journey when we're talking about IoT and mobile app development? You've got a lot of little parts here to think about. You've got your device, which needs to have connectivity to the cloud to be able to distribute this globally, that device globally. You've got to be able to store that information. You need processes to be able to define the data, figure out what's the best use of it. Should it be a report? You need logic to be able to distribute that data to other types of event handlers and code, such as event hubs to send out notifications resulting from that data. And then you need a way of being able to deliver an application to the consumer to be able to consume that data in their mobile devices, or their PCs, their tablets, laptops, and so forth. So there's an array of technologies that are necessary in order to create benefit and use, from IoT devices all the way through the processes that are necessary to make it very value-added benefit to consumers and enterprises. And no better place to start that journey than to look at Microsoft's Azure platform and the Xamarin app development environment that we're going to be talking about, to be able to make that process of getting IoT to the end user in the most efficient and scalable and easy to develop and configure manner. So we'll start the journey looking at Azure IoT platform, Azure Services, including Azure IoT Suite, Microsoft Mobile Platform environment, which includes Azure Mobile Services, Xamarin, and HockeyApp, which is Xamarin and HockeyApp have just recently been purchased by Microsoft because they've seen the value in adding that to this entire platform, and gives us an end-to-end solution. The thing about IoT is what makes it valuable and what makes it very appealing is that hardware is fairly cheap. When we're talking about the devices that are connecting to things and giving us information, and connecting to the hardware that'll present that up to the cloud. Connectivity these days is pervasive, so that many people have access to be able to get that data through the cloud. Development has become easier because these technologies for developing mobile applications have grown and matured, as we'll see with the addition of the mobile platform that Microsoft has put together through Xamarin and Visual Studio. And the huge benefits that you get from IoT devices fuel the demand for all these applications and technologies. So there's a lot of investment going into it from many different sources, different channels, and Microsoft has also created a very strong investment in the Azure portal, Azure cloud, the microservices and things that support their platform for mobile development and IoT development. And there have been many innovative solutions that have been developed, and as people have seen this coming, have created a lot of applications and services that make it much easier to be able to join in and to develop and use these applications and services in your enterprise. There's a connectthedots.io, which is an open source project that's created by Microsoft that you can go to and get help in seeing projects to create these tiny devices that are connected to the Azure IoT platform and implement great IoT solutions, take advantage of Microsoft Azure and advanced analytics and stream analytics and machine learning and so forth. So if you go to connectthedots.io, you can download those projects and take advantage of them in you're reviewing your journey towards mobile app development. Now, the Azure IoT platform, what we see here is a diagram that really outlines all of the components and the data path of developing a mobile application from an IoT device and being able to take full advantage of the data that comes from that into all the various services that Microsoft offers in the Azure IoT platform. What we show here is an example of something called ODB dongle, which is an onboard diagnostics device that can be used to connect to vehicles. Generally, there's a port under the dash that this dongle, this IoT device, will plug into. If you've ever had your car show up in the check engine light, then you'll know you take that to the serviceman. One of the first things they do is get a meter or a device, a handheld device or a cable that they plug up to that port, and it spits out codes of referencing sensors or other things that are being presented from the onboard computer of your car to let you know what's wrong, what's gone on, what's the error, and then they can continue to diagnose the issue from that piece of data and information. But also from the onboard computer, you get all kinds of other information relating to your vehicle. You can get things like your VIN number, which can help determine what the make and model of your car is. You get information about the engine, the RPMs that it's generating. You get information about fuel consumption and other data that can be very useful in determining many things about not just the engine and the performance, but also in combination with the GPS capability of a mobile phone can give you a very rich set of data that can be analyzed and presented to let you know how your driving is and where you've been, a way of collecting a lot of data that can be useful to you as a driver, not to mention useful to the manufacturers in determining some of the weak spots and ways that they can improve their manufacturing process. So as we see, it's connected to a vehicle that has, the dongle has a wireless capability to be able to communicate with a wireless device such as a mobile phone or a tablet or a PC. That information then passes to that device, and that device needs a method to be able to deliver that to the cloud or to the internet in a way that can be widely distributed. And so in this example, a mobile phone is used to get information directly from the data from the device, and it passes it through as a field gateway to Microsoft's Azure IoT Hub. Now, IoT Hub becomes the point of contact between the device, the phone, and the internet. And the IoT Hub then will take that information. It will be configured. The IoT Hub gets configured with the device ID of what it's connecting to, so it knows how then to ID that data as it goes through the other various processes. It will take that and it will move it into the Stream Analytics component, as you see in the middle there. And that Stream Analytics component can be configured to get its information from the IoT Hub and other microservices that you see on the screen as an input source. Then it can point to an output stream of any of those also services that you see on the screen, and becomes a way of moving that data from the hub into either a storage device such as a database or a blob file and so forth. You configure that very simply and easily on the Stream Analytics component of Azure, and we'll show that a little bit later. But what's so great about all the components, and while you may see on the graph, oh, there's a lot of things going on here, may seem a bit overwhelming, but the great thing about it is that very little coding is required for all of these components to do their job and to handle this data for you. You go in and with a few simple forms and configuration, you're able to set this up and connect one service to the other to be able to move your data through the platform and get the kinds of results that that you're expecting very simply and very easily. And it's a very fantastic way of being able to quickly put together systems through mobile app development all the way through the processing of all that data out to the consumer. The Stream Analytics will send, say, that data, for example, to an event hub, and that event hub will maybe send that information on to the service fabric for some logic, and we'll send that back to the event hub and say, send this push notification out to these devices based upon the data and the functions that you've created for it to analyze at that point. Then back to the Stream Analytics, another Stream Analytics job, then we'll send that on to the database, and that can be delivered then to the app service that supports the mobile phone app, and ultimately to the HockeyApp website, where it says it's ready for the consumer to go in and download or get the latest version, for example. Or it also, from the app service, may send that back to App Insights, so it gives some performance information and capability through monitoring the process and the data as it comes in. The Stream Analytics can send it to a storage device, which can then be consumed by a machine learning component, which will take all the sources of data that come in and do analysis on them and be able to see trends and define ratios and grades of the data as it comes through, which is useful to the end user, such as maybe you want to find out how your driving works and how your car is performing to other users of the system. And machine learning can help facilitate that kind of reporting. Stream Analytics, as you see, also can send it directly out and get near real-time reporting information directly to something like Power BI. As you see in the upper right corner of Microsoft Office in the cloud, be able to go on to a Power BI presentation and see in near real-time exactly what's happening from the data that's coming in to the IoT Hub. or in the other instance, the storage blob or the database at the top can pass that information on into HD Insight, which is Microsoft's large data solution to be able to gather all the information from all the users and connectivity that's to your application, up to the millions, and be able to take all that data and handle it and separate it out and divide it to the SQL database that can also then be sent to a Power BI app, for example, and do massive reporting on data. So as you can see, all of the components that are here connected to one another through configuration. Very little coding is required for any of this, as we'll see, and becomes a very fantastic, easy-to-use platform to be able to develop your applications. Provides vehicle telemetry, process vehicle telemetry, application data, app metadata, and app telemetry, and driving style assessments through machine learning. Now, Azure Services for IoT, as we've just outlined, here's a way of seeing it in more organized fashion. You have your devices. Your devices are sent to IoT Azure Services through device connectivity, such as event hubs, service bus, external data sources, and there are storage components that come in the form of SQL databases or table and blob storage, document database, external data sources if you have those that you want to send information, let's say, to other APIs or other even on-prem storage or databases. Then you have analytics in the form of machine learning, stream analytics for near real-time data, and large data handling for a great number of analysis is done on huge amounts of data, and a data factory that can produce information based upon that data coming in. And you have presentation and action. You have app service to be able to provide all of this information to mobile devices. You have Power BI, which is a Microsoft Office, a way of consuming the data in the form of charts and graphs and tabular formats. Notification hubs that can send those responses out to the end user through notifications. And mobile services, which allows you to be able to consume that on your mobile devices and see the latest versions of those app services that have been developed for your mobile device. And then BizTalk Services is also a component that can be integrated into all of this to be able to provide a hybrid solution so that that information can also then be stored and communicated back and forth to on-prem solutions and servers that you have in the enterprise. And so the IoT paths to Azure include custom, the IoT Hub, and the IoT Suite to be able to provide for a very robust and scalable solution for application development in IoT. Next, we're going to take a look at Azure Mobile Services, talk about Xamarin, and the Enterprise Mobility Suite from Microsoft. Azure Mobile Services is a collection of microservices that are app services that are involved in the platform, and each of the devices, such as tablets and mobile phones and computers, have access to all of this through REST APIs that will connect to the various services. And the services provide for offline syncing if your device is not connected to the internet, or if your connections either way from your mobile phone consuming the data or from your devices that are trying to send the data. The data can be then stored and synced later on through delivering that through REST API. If you have an application and you don't have connectivity for some reason, you want to enter some information in response, it can be synced later on as it gets connection through these mobile services. It has data connections through SQL Server, blob tables, even connection through MongoDB, Office 365, and any other API apps that you may have developed through Azure Portal or in other services that have the ability to connect through API. These are the data connections that are involved in providing services for their solution. User authentication can be done through the Azure Active Directory that's a part of the Azure Portal service, and the provision to be able to authenticate your users through the normal social avenues such as Facebook, Twitter, Microsoft and Google. These are also available as unit authentication services. And then push notifications support all the platforms that you need for iOS, OS X, Android Chrome, Windows, Kindle, and in-app such as your web application that you want to send notifications to. All the capability is here in the Azure Mobile Services. And of course, the development of these things can be done through .NET, of course, and through other technologies such as JavaScript, say using Node.js, or web application then can consume and be able to use these services to connect to your application development system. And many other application development technologies are available, including Visual Studio, for you to be able to write and develop these particular apps and services and connect to Azure Mobile Services. Next, we'll look at Microsoft's mobility platform. We'll talk about it for just a moment. As a whole, it supports hybrid identity access management, which allows you to either use a cloud solution for identity management, such as Azure AD, Active Directory, or allows you to connect to an on-prem server to be able to validate your users through, say, a local enterprise Active Directory. Then the inclusion of this platform is something called Microsoft Intune, which is an application that allows the enterprise to be able to manage the mobile devices that are connected and used within the enterprise, to be able to authenticate users, apply policies, and so forth. And then information protection and advanced threat analytics is a part of the platform to be able to help define security and to be able to analyze security threats that may be in the process of the enterprise mobility use as a whole, or any make sure that certain security standards that are set in place is also there through analyzing all the security and information protection points. Microsoft Mobility Suite provides a full application lifecycle development, as you see here, starting with design using Xamarin, and Xamarin for Visual Studio allows you to easily, as we'll see here in the next few slides in a demo, we'll see how Xamarin and Visual Studio work together to build the application. The application then can be built locally through Visual Studio, can be built through Team Foundation Services, through Visual Studio Online. All of that then is integrated into Microsoft Azure, also used through Visual Studio to be able to communicate your app to the services and configure some of those through Visual Studio. And then testing that is supplied through the Xamarin Test Cloud provides a thorough and wide range of devices and versions of devices and mobile apps and tablets so that you can test on many different devices how your application is going to look and to perform through Xamarin Test Cloud. And then to be able to pass those iterations of design and building and testing to the end consumer through the HockeyApp web application, where you will publish your app and the consumers then can go in and download the app to their mobile devices and register their mobile devices for your application. So there's a full end-to-end, which is all a part of DevOps. We'll talk about a little bit later, solution for building in Microsoft's mobility platform. A little bit more about the Enterprise Mobility Suite here is a little diagram showing how that application works for the enterprise. A user logs on to the enterprise network with their mobile device. They can be authenticated, say, to Microsoft Azure Active Directory Premium to verify that they are have the rights, and then also to identify them and their device. Microsoft's Intune application then will identify and authorize that user. Will apply device policies that may exist for that particular device, Android or Windows Phone or iOS Apple phone. Apply application policies to make sure that certain applications that are allowed or not allowed are held and identified. And then apply content policies, let's say, for example, for browsers and for email, to make sure that those are there to keep the enterprise secure from the mobile device point of view. And then IT has the ability to manage all of this through the Microsoft Intune application and the Azure Rights Management component and the Microsoft Azure Active Directory. So this is a very important part of an enterprise solution to be able to manage all of that and still interface directly with the Azure cloud and the full platform capabilities. Excuse me. Whoops, I went one too quick. What is Xamarin? Let's talk about Xamarin in a little bit more detail. Xamarin is an application development environment. It is a piece of software that has been developed and purchased by Microsoft to integrate with Visual Studio. It allows for the cross-platform development of mobile applications using a shared set of code, so that 70% of the code that you would write for your mobile application can be shared across all three native platforms, Apple, Android, and Windows, for example. And you can code your logic for your mobile application using C#. You can define your connectivity to your device, the connectivity to the cloud, and any business logic and app logic that you want in your C# code. And then for the devices themselves, you simply configure those and design those screens on the individual devices. The majority of all the logic comes from one location. Provides an enterprise-grade mobile app. You got your shared C# code. You're able to do this development on Windows or OS X capability through Visual Code. On Mac systems, you have native performance and access to all the native APIs for each of the device platforms, which gives you the ability to take advantage of all the features that each of the devices have separately in their libraries and the software that runs the operating system for the device. All have Xamarin gives you complete access to those things, and you can easily connect with Microsoft Azure Services through Visual Studio to be able to connect and configure and then deliver your app solution up through the cloud on Azure Services. So within this, you'll have your DevOps, you have your agile development for team collaboration. You can do that through Visual Studio Online, and you can be assured that through all the solution you're going to be producing an application of the highest quality as if you went into each native platform and developed it the same way. So you're not losing any quality by using this hybrid development solution. You're saving large amounts of time and development effort in being able to do that. So it's a very appealing component to the application development solution. Also, Microsoft provides Azure IoT starter kits. These starter kits are great because they provide real-world solutions that you can look and see how these are built using Xamarin and Visual Studio. You're able to build upon them and see the structure that's there. Gives you some ideas of some IoT devices that are being used in each of these kits, and provides a very fantastic way to get started in Xamarin mobile app development using Azure. And what I'd like to do right now is take a look at and give you some visual references to Xamarin and some of the components that we've talked about in the slides that we've just represented. And one of the first things I want to show here is Xamarin in Visual Studio. So I'm going to spin up Visual Studio, and it's going to open up the demo project that I have created, and will give you an idea of what Xamarin is all about in Visual Studio. Let me get it over here on the right screen, and as it is loading, one of the first things you'll see is the Get Started form that pops up that's part of the solution. So a few prerequisites have to be considered when you're doing Xamarin app development in Visual Studio and also using Azure Platform Services. You'll need to install the Xamarin SDK, which allows you to get simulators for Android devices and for Apple iOS devices, and that's all a part of the SDK for Xamarin, and you'll install that and it'll fit into Visual Studio. Also, in connecting to Azure, you'll download and install the Azure SDK, which will give you all the components you need for connectivity. It's not a very hard or difficult process, but these are prerequisites, and we won't cover in detail here, but I wanted to mention them. As you see, what's popped up on the screen here is an indicator saying that I need to connect to my Mac agent. And the reason for this is because due to the restrictions on iOS devices, in order to actually compile an application for an iOS device, it requires doing that on an Apple device that has Xcode on it, which would be either a Mac Mini or a Mac server or a Mac laptop that has that capability. So here it's asking me up front as soon as I open the project to be able to connect, and it gives you 3 simple steps showing you exactly how to do that connection, and then you connect and you're able to compile your app. I don't have my Mac available to connect, but I just wanted to explain that screen, which you'll see. What I want to draw attention to here is a couple of things in this solution, and the solution is a collection of projects, and whenever you go to create a new project in Xamarin, you select Xamarin project, and it will give you out of the box these projects already included. There's one for code portable project, which I'll explain in a moment, one for your Android device, and one for your iOS device, one for Windows Universal, and one for Windows 8.1 operating system, and then one for Windows Phone 8.1. So these are all out-of-the-box projects. You may or may not need all of them if you decide you're just going to develop for Android and iOS, and you might not need the Windows, or vice versa. If you just want to do Windows Phone, you can get rid of the other projects. But these are out-of-the-box given to you so that they're up and ready to use, and what I want to show is that this is what you get. Now, the portable library, the portable code library, is one of the most important parts about developing your application in Xamarin for Visual Studio. And that's because that's where the majority of your application logic will reside. In the app CSS, you'll put information in here that defines what happens when the application starts, when it sleeps, when it gets resumed, and it will allow you to control the connectivity to your devices, connectivity to Azure, and all the logic that you would need to be able to define what your application is going to do, what data it needs to get from what database, and so forth. And all of that is shared between the other projects so that all the devices share the same logic. In the past, what you would have to do without this capability is you would have to go onto your Mac device, and you would have to open up Xcode, and you would have to write all of your logic and define all your screens through that application on a Mac. Then if you wanted to also have an Android that had your application, you would go on a device that was able to support Java and the SDKs that you would need for Android, such as the Android suite, spin all that up, and then you would have to duplicate your logic, your code between iOS and Android, and then also if you want to do it for Windows Phone, you got to do it again. So you got 3 different development environments that you're trying to build, a mobile application that is synced essentially between all 3 device platforms, and it's become a difficult and laborious process. You'd have to know all the different languages separately, and just became a real difficult thing. But now through Xamarin and Visual Studio, you've got all of that in one easy-to-use development environment. You've got drag-and-drop design capability, such as for the Android I'll show here, and creating a screen for Android. It'll bring up a simulated screen that you can see using Visual Studio. You can drag and drop components and design the screen and define how it's going to look, and govern the colors and the backgrounds and themes and so forth. Takes a moment for that to come up. So as you can see, here is a simulated screen, and you can pick from your toolbox over here easily components that you might want to include on the screen, and just drag them and drop them on. Let me get something here that will show up. So I'm going to add another large text label onto the screen, and there it is. So with drag and drop capability, you can easily design for each of the different platforms, whether it's Android, iOS, or Windows. And it's one of the fantastic benefits of the screen here. And of course, you can switch formats from from portrait to landscape, and see how that's going to fit and design it accordingly. So it's a very robust and very easy to use GUI to be able to develop your mobile applications. And so these are some of the things that I wanted to show you about Xamarin and Visual Studio. Also, I wanted to show you and take a look at the Azure portal and what the components are and the configuration that you go through. It's very simple to be able to create those components that we saw in our slide. And I've already logged into our solution and our portal, our mobile platform in Microsoft Azure. I've created a beginning point, which, as we saw earlier in the screen, our IoT hub. So essentially our device would connect to our phone, which immediately send that data to our IoT hub. And our IoT hub then is configurable to be able to support many different devices. So many users and many devices can be sending data to it at one time. Each one of those devices are identified by a device ID, and then that way the data from that device is then persisted and kept separate according to its ID throughout all of the data sets and data points that you'll configure in your IoT platform application. So once that you have your IoT hub, it becomes a data collecting point. And what we did after that is we connected and created a streaming job, a streaming analytics component. And that analytics component is also configurable to take multiple different types of inputs and outputs. So you would be able to take the information that comes in from, and as you can see here, I've already connected the XApp IoT Hub component that I just showed you here. And the way to configure it is a very simple little form that you can use drop downs to fill out. You have very easy ways of configuring that, and you can define things like the type of data that's going to be serialized, what kind of data format it's going to be, and so forth. Some things are already filled out for you, even through the platform, such as your shared access policy key, which is part of your subscription. And so you can see it's a very easy thing. So you can send it to a messaging endpoint or an operations monitoring endpoint, and then that is going to be your input configuration. Very simple. Once you've defined that, click Save. It's set up. Then you can go and define what output that you want. In this case, I don't have one set up, so we'll see how easy it is to define an output. We'll go over here. We'll add an output. We're going to call this our XApp streaming or stream out. Just whatever you want to put there, that will define it. That also has to be unique. And then you decide where you want it to go, where you want to sync it into. In this case, Event Hub was already selected, but we can pick SQL database. For example, we can use one that already exists that has been set up from our current subscription, our Microsoft Azure subscription. So we've got that selected, or you could provide your settings manually. We use that one. There's several different databases that we have set up in here. Let's say I pick this one. It tells me what the server name is for that particular database already configured. It puts that in for me. All I have to do is put in the username and the password and what table that the data is going to, and I'll hit create, and it'll go through the process of creating it. Sometimes that can take a few minutes, so we're not going to create that in the demo here, but that's how easy it is to configure these two components to be able to connect them together just in a matter of minutes. And then the only thing left to do to finish the configuration is the little bit of code that's required, very small amount of of code to be able to say and define where is it going to come from, what's it going to go to, and what particular fields are going to be taken from the source and put into the destination. And that's what you define here. It's a little bit of T-SQL type syntax. If you're familiar with writing queries at all, or your technical person is, it's going to be very simple for them to understand what to do. You select the fields, select stars. A wildcard character means it selects everything. And in here it gives you a clue. You want to select it from somewhere, but you want to put it into something, so you put it your into point, which is going to be your database output alias name here. I think what we chose was an XApp stream out, so you put that information there. And then whatever your input alias for your IoT hub is what you would put here, and you're done. You hit save. You go back, and your component is now configured. And what you have done is you have created the components necessary to get data from your IoT device that comes from your mobile phone that's connected to your IoT device, say your car onboard diagnostic device. And through setting up the query and the output, it will take that now, once it comes in, and directly send it as you have configured it over to the database, and all of a sudden now your database is getting information directly from your IoT device. And that alone is a great part of your application that you need in order to go further with that and decide what you do with that data, where the endpoints are that it's going to go to, and so forth. And so each of the components, as you saw earlier in the slide, are all configurable fairly as simply as this. And you're able to provide a very quick solution, put together all the things. Without all of this, you would be developing each one of these services in the background, hosting them on some server somewhere, having to maintain all of the base code for all of that, not to mention the configuration part. And just takes all of that great part of development labor out, and provides an easy to configure and easy to also report on. The reports are built in the background to be able to see what's happening through how much data is coming in, what your performance issues might be, and so forth. So this is a little bit of insight into the Microsoft Azure mobile platform, as we were describing earlier. And as you continue to go through the process of adding all your components, you're able to organize those and be able to add them to your dashboard here. You can create a dashboard for just that particular application solution and keep those here easily to get to. Several different ways of organizing all of your components in Microsoft Azure. Using Microsoft Azure is something we haven't gone into in detail today, but there are other webinars and, of course, sources that you can find online that can really help you learn how to take advantage of Azure as a whole, not just for IoT and mobile app development, but on-prem solutions and so forth. So I encourage you to really get into Microsoft Azure and see what all the possibilities are. So one of the next things that we want to talk about, we'll go back to the slide deck for a moment, and let's see. All this down, and am I still connected? I think I am. I just don't know why my app's not coming up here. Oh, sorry, I'm having a little technical difficulty. There we go. Let's see. Okay, there we go. Now if we could go to, the last slide. Great, thank you. So this is a slide that talks about the dev operations, or all of the lifecycle management for building your mobile applications that are involved in managing your application development process. It starts out with a code repository of some type. It could be GitHub. It could be Team Foundation service through Visual Studio Online, place for you to store the iterations and versions of your code. And we need an ability to build and deploy our application, which you can get through Visual Studio on your local machine, or you can also use Visual Studio Online in the cloud and deploy to Azure mobility platform, mobility services. Then we need a way to do load testing. We need to be able to find out what the performance of our application is doing. We need to be able to make sure that it works in all the different devices that we want to make sure it is going to support, and that we do through the Xamarin in the cloud application to be able to send our app up there to see how it looks in all the different formats. And then we need release and management capability and testing to make sure that the end users have signed off on it, the testers that we have signed off, QA has signed off, and then once that is done, we need to be able to take it from the cloud, make it available to the general public, and that's what we use HockeyApps for. HockeyApps also give us a reporting mechanism for testers to be able also to report back on the app, define issues and concerns or suggestions, and that's what's involved in HockeyApps. And all that comes back again to our next iteration of the app, and it goes in a complete management, DevOps management cycle here. I just wanted to show you quickly a little bit of those components. In Visual Studio Online, you go to visualstudio.com, and you can get a free subscription where it gives you the ability to have a Team Foundation account where you can begin to have your code repository and keep your versions of your different iterations of your application online. It also has a testing capability that you can add up to 5 team members to be able to either develop or use them as testers for your application, and gives the also ability to manage your builds and to identify your different builds, and then connect also with TFS to be able to Azure portal to be able to manage your apps. So Visual Studio Online is great for code repository. We mentioned the HockeyApp platform, which Microsoft also owns, and it gives the ability for us to publish our apps, provides distribution, a great reporting feature, user metrics, all kinds of services go into the HockeyApp in relation to your published application and end user reporting, and that's also a Microsoft component. And then another great component that you can take advantage of is the Xamarin.com test cloud, which, as you can see in the image here in the graph behind the scenes, is a lot of images of a lot of different kinds of devices, Android, iOS, and Windows, tablets as well. So it allows you then to test and see what your application is going to look and perform like in any one of these both legacy and latest versions of phones and platforms. So this is a fantastic way to make sure that you're supporting all the devices that you want to support, and it will ship your app also to the users through this service. So as you can see, a little bit of the slide demonstration here in the app shows you how that the interface also is easy to use and gives you a lot of reporting information right here through the test cloud. So these are some of the visual pieces that I wanted to show you in relation to the things that we had talked about, so you kind of get a feel and know where to go and what we were talking about. So that is the end of our demonstration and webinar for today. I'd like to open it up for questions. If anyone has anything that they'd like to ask, please enter that into the chat box of the GoToWebinar screen, and we'd be happy to try to answer the best of our ability. So I'll leave that up to you and the moderator. Thank you so much for your time today.
Thank you, Richard. If anyone do have questions, please raise your hand or put directly your questions to the right side chat box. I repeat, if you have any question, please raise your hand, or you can directly put your questions on the right side chat box. Since we don't have any questions, we'll move on for the next slide. Here on the screen we can see the upcoming webinars, that is Exploring MuleSoft Anypoint Platform for Hybrid Connectivity, that is going to be held on August 4, and we do have Exploring QA with Microsoft Test Manager and Team Founder Server, that is going to be held on August 18th. We do have a lot more webinars. To visit, check at www.microsoft.com/webinars. Digital transformation and MİRACLE. MİRACLE also do provide health check workshops, and we do have digital transformation workshops and POCs. Our Innovation Lab and Center of Excellence team can help you to build a roadmap for your next-gen digital transformation initiatives. With all that, thank you everyone for joining this webinar. You can learn and visit more for www.microsoft.com, or you can shoot a mail to info@microsoft.com. If you are a Twitter lover, you can tweet at team_MSS, or visit YouTube channel at youtube.com/miracle45625. For FB fan page, you can visit facebook.com/miracle45625. With all that being said, I would like to end this webinar. Thank you for joining this webinar and have a great day.